Welcome back to Open Studio. It is motor time. Let's get to it. All right, we'll get you guys in a little bit more. Thanks for coming back. That's awesome. It's like the end of the trip right here. So you're like in your home state right now after a long trip. It's just a matter of getting across your state to home. Let's get this focused up. There we go. Okay. So what I need to do to start this is I'm going to have to kind of base. So we still see the HD stencil through all this, which is great. I want to preserve some of that as I go. But I also want to be able to kind of bounce back and forth between the HD stencil and also the photocopies. So that'll help out a lot. Let me grab another airbrush here. So to get this done, where is it? Where is it? So is that it? I should really mark these, huh? Hold on. Hold on. Yeah, that has to be it because it's the only one here. Okay. Doesn't feel like it. So this is the rust color from the beginning of the painting. So that's what we're going to do to kind of base this in. But I am going to add a little bit of white to this. Yeah. Because, well, this is a little bit too in your face. So we're going to add a little bit of white just to kind of take the curse off. And I'm also going to add some UVLS and 4011 reducer to it. So again, that bottle that I just had with the brown is 100% paint. I just mixed it in the bottle. So there's no reducer in that or anything. So it's very, very thick. So I probably added too much white, but it's still going to work. See how light that is? It's like a tan. But because I have all the 40/50 in it too, it's also very transparent. So again, I just need a kind of a grayish brown. So actually this might work. Add a little bit of black to it. Give it more of that gray color. Yeah, that's better. Here it is. Kind of a dirty tan. Oops, don't need that out. Okay. Good. All right, so with this color, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of knock in anything that's going to be like, you know, have that kind of oxidized metal color. It's not quite rust. It is rust, but it's more of a, you know, surface rust. It's not like a structural rust like is going on the tank. Again, it's really transparent and really thin, so I got to be careful with it, not to really flood it because it'll just kind of get everywhere. But you can see I can still save all that cool HD stencil. I don't know how much of the HD stencil I'm going to use here. I might end up working with a bunch of copies. That's a good possibility. Might be a bunch of freehand. We'll kind of see once you start digging into it. All right, this, let's see. That tube right there is very like gold-ish color, so we're going to have to pull that back out, but it's all right. Did I not do any of that? I don't know why. This is really still, well, I guess it's part of the motor. Part of the frame. It doesn't overly matter, but probably should have been done with the frame. This is definitely the frame up here, so I don't know why I didn't finish that, but that's okay. That works. We'll get it done. So even the areas that are going to be really black, like down in here, I'm still using this brown on it because, again, you know, it's that complexity of color. If I just nail it with the black, it's going to feel very two-dimensional. But if there's, you know, if there's all kinds of other colors creeping through, then that really just helps add to the three-dimensionality of it when you see the painting live. It doesn't really translate through photographs, but it definitely translates when it's live. Lovely. Like this area right here I'm doing right down here, that's almost completely black. Oh, a little bit too hard on that. That's okay. Oops. The air gets behind the magnet on this. It just lets the painting drop. Like that. You know what I gotta do? I know what I gotta do. I will grab 2 magnets to just put at the bottom. Now it's not gonna do that, even if the air gets behind it. There we go. Oh, that was rough. I'm not paying attention. So luckily, even though what happens is I'm not paying attention and then I end up flooding it and it, blows wet paint all over it. The good news is I'm still going so light with it that those blowouts really are almost imperceptible. So it's, it's certainly recoverable, but it still has the same negative psychological impact on me as it would if it was a ton of paint when I do that. It's like, I'm not paying attention and end up just blasting paint out. What is that? That's black, okay. So I have a frame for this already, this painting, but I think I'm going to change the frame on this because this painting, surprisingly, and it surprised me too, this painting is easily going to be the most involved of all of the paintings in this series. No other painting in this series took as long as this one. So I think this needs a more elaborate, larger frame than what I have for the other ones. I don't know what that means yet. I gotta start thinking about it, but I think this needs a really broad floater frame, something with a big rail on it so that plays off of all this really minute, tight detail. All right. Good. Good, good, good. So I know that seems like I just sprayed over the whole thing. It does. But it really isn't. Like I said, I didn't really touch this yellow or the blue up here. I kind of did get it on this, this tube here, but there's really no avoiding that. And I'm going to have to paint that tube in separate anyway. So I wasn't really overly careful keeping paint off of that. But everything else was fair game. So now, you know what? Yeah, I think I'm just going to go for it. I think I'm just going to airbrush it. There will be some areas that need paintbrush, but for the most part, as I'm looking at this, a lot of this is airbrushed. So we're going to do that. We're just going to kind of start picking at it. If it needs something tighter, then, just grab the paintbrush. But I think we're going to just start going for it as I drop stuff on the floor. All right. Oh, I'm dropping everything on the floor. All right, fine. All right, so it's the same black as the last episode, that 1 to 10 mix. What I want to do is, I think I want to move the reference so I can see it because the camera is actually in the way right now. So I want to be able to see what I'm doing here. Where do I want to have this? That might work, maybe, sorta, kinda. Oops. Yeah, that's gonna work. So we'll see how this works. Again, the black has a kind of a brownish cast to it anyway, which is nice. So I'll be able to kind of use this black everywhere, not adjust it. I mean, there's, you know, if this was the older black that had more of a blue cast to it, then yeah, I'd have to adjust it. It's where all that, if you've been following me, when we talk about that lumber color, that's where that color came from. It was just an adjusted black, so it was more like this black. It's more brownish black than blue black. So a warmer black. I don't know why, but I tend to use a warmer black more than any other kind of black. And you know, it's not exclusive. Sometimes you need a cooler black, but for the most part, you know, the darker black is, or the warmer black is what I generally tend to use. Oh, this brush is such a beast. This brush with this paint is like, isn't just unstoppable. Again, it's this is the Micron B, the gravity fed detail brush from Iwata. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of running around the details and putting in the darker values around those details. Yeah, I am really in there and tight, you know, and pulling out those details, but it's still more about blocking in the big areas, well, relatively big areas like in there first, and then working on shading and shadowing and things like that. Not worried about any highlights, those come after anyway. Here we go. The one thing I don't like about Open Studio is because of the, and I get it, but because of the YouTube, all social media really, the licensing issues that they have, you know, by having music in videos that shouldn't be, I guess. Like I always have music playing in the studio when I'm working. So when I do the recordings for Open Studio, it's unnerving in a way because there's no music playing, and I always work with music. So that's the one drawback of doing the Open Studios for me. It's just like I feel like, you know, I definitely feel like there's a bunch of stuff missing by not having the music going, but it's okay. What's going on there? Oh, it's the top of the head. Okay. So, and working freehand with an HD stencil is just a joy, because like I said, the drawing aspect of it is already laid out. You know, it's like if I did, you know, if I did all the work on the drawing first and it's all in there exactly where it needs to be, which is the way, you know, I'd always done it. I'd always transferred the image onto the board and then redrew it. So I would have this almost like this insane coloring book image. It would be all the, you know, all the line work, all the values. But the HD stencil kind of does that for me. So saves a bunch of time, and it just works really, really well. I'm going to move this up a little bit because I keep bumping it. That there, and that'll work maybe. Maybe? I don't know. Probably, maybe not. So if you're new here, welcome. Throw that out there too. Don't forget to do the gratuitous like and subscribe. I would really appreciate that. And if you're like me and you've started binge watching to catch up, bravo to you. I do that all the time when I find a new creator that I like. I'll just have their channel running in the background and binge watch all their content. So if you find yourself doing that for me, I am deeply honored and welcome. Leave me a comment and let me know you're here. So you can see how the fins on the top of that head are coming together. It's just, this is the best part of airbrushing for me. So I love this part here with just kind of like picking out the details. And to me, it's like carving almost. It's like reverse. Well, no, it's not. Well, all right, it feels like carving to me, even though I'm not carving actually. But like to do the inside these fins here, and by pushing that dark color in there, it's like carving out that shape. And that's how I feel when I'm doing it. And it's neat, it's fun. And I think that has an impact on the way that it looks too, because I have that mentality of like carving. It ends up feeling real three-dimensional. And I don't know if that's just like a psychological transference from what I'm feeling and then what I end up doing, or if it's just, you know, the paint on the board that's really doing that. But either way, it is a cool feeling, and it does result in a pretty decent result, I guess. It results in a good result. That's that could have been a much better sentence. Oh well. Clearly need more coffee, and it's mid-afternoon too, so that should tell you something. Usually I record all the open studios first thing in the morning. And I know I've said it before, you know, when you guys are watching these and I have like gravel in my throat and, you know, can't get any words out. But today I was running around a little bit and I'm like, you know what? I'm in between paintings right now in a way. So it's a perfect time to do some open studio. There we go. And if you watched Tech Tuesday, one of the first Tech Tuesdays I did was called the Death Grip. And I still find, even now, almost all the time, when I do details like this and I'm just kind of like, you know, really concentrating, I find I really like grip the airbrush like I'm trying to bend it in half. It's not a good habit to be in, you know, and it takes, you know, conscious effort for me to not do that. Like I'll catch myself doing it. But it's funny how it pops its head up quite frequently. All right, these kind of lines for the side of the head here, I think those are paintbrush category, because what they do is they kind of sharpen up, and I'll show you. It might be easier if I just show you. They sharpen as they go. They get thinner as they move across, and that's, you know, it's can you do it with the airbrush? Yes, but it's going to have a softer look to it, like the, you know, the fins on the head here. And then for those fins up there, that's fine because it's mostly in the shadow of the tank. But these are right out in the open. They're pretty in your face. So I want to make sure I get them right. Now to get this right, so our hand has a back this up a little bit. Our hand has a motion that it likes. For instance, for me, up and down like this, moving my arm forward and backwards, and to get like a line like this, it won't come out as clean. as it will if I use the motion of my wrist like this. So to do like a C-shaped arch with my hand like this, that's going to come out very smooth and clean. To do that upside down is harder because now I'm using my arm instead of just the motion of my wrist here. So to kind of compensate for that, look at that? I just put scratches all over this. You guys gotta stop me from doing dumb things. That's all right. All right. What are we gonna do is this. So, all right, so the scratches suck because they're right in the middle of where I was gonna paint. Interesting. What did I scratch it with? I don't know what I scratched it with. All right, so here's how we're gonna fix this. And this is kind of obnoxious, but this is what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna go down to the palette here, put a little bit of that brown that I used. And I'm gonna mix that color that I had in the airbrush. So I got some white. If you remember, I had some white and I had a little bit of black. That's too much black, but that's okay too. So a little bit more brown, a little bit more white, and we'll pull it back up. That's good, but it needs to be more brown. A little more brown. And I'm just kind of glancing back and forth at the painting till I get close to it. And that looks good. So now what I'm going to do with the paintbrush is I'm going to repair the scratch on each one of those fins first. I'll worry about this stuff after, but it's the fins that I'm looking at now because I'm about to put the black on them. So that's crazy. I didn't even realize I did that. Too busy talking. Too much talky. There we go. Now the paintbrush, believe it or not, the paintbrush doesn't give you the opacity out of the gate that the airbrush does. And I know that sounds weird because the airbrush is like this thin, misty spray. However, the paintbrush really accentuates the transparency of whatever the color is. It takes several passes with the paintbrush to get it to cover something like this scratch, where the airbrush would actually cover this fairly quickly. And I think that's more the way that the bits, the little tiny, little droplets of paint atomize out of the airbrush. They're more organized when they hit the surface, so you get this even coverage quicker than you would with the paintbrush. The paintbrush tends to be more streaky, like you're pulling the paint, so you have this kind of trough in the middle of the paintbrush stroke where you're touching the surface. It's really thin, and then the paint on the sides of that are really thick, so that's where you get all that streakiness from. All right, so that's good. That's going to work out fine. All right, back to it. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the black and I'll kind of get the darker areas in. So the whole point of what I was talking about before is notice I turned the painting upside down because now I have that kind of frowny face thing. That kind of frowny face stripe. So now I'm just going to kind of start at one end and run it across. Now this is going to be way too, there we go. It's going to be way too sharp, but that's okay. That's all right, because that's what the airbrush is going to do or take care of in a few minutes. We're just trying to get those, the sharpness of this shape in. There's resistance there too. What's going on here? See how the paint beaded up right here? So I got to let that dry. I got to make sure there's no fingerprint on there, which that's weird because I haven't really been handling this, but there's something on there. So we're just gonna let that dry. It needs to be dry before we do that, rubbing off technique there with the glove here. Let me grab the airbrush. I'm gonna just throw some air on this, dry that off. Should be good. All right, let's see what we got. Make sure that my finger is clean. Start off light to make sure that it's actually dry, and then once I know that it's dry, I can kind of dig in a little bit. Make sure you don't have anything on there. No Cheeto fingerprints. We don't want that. So now, yep, there was something on there. I don't know what it was, but so you notice how now it's not pooling. You know, it's not resisting like when we were kids, and you know, they'd get wax, you know, like crayons or whatever, and then you'd draw something with the crayons and then dump watercolor all over it, and the watercolor wouldn't stick to the wax, you know. It's the same kind of thing. Now, I don't know why it's resisting here. It shouldn't be, because I cleaned all this. So I don't know why it's resisting there. That's weird. So I know there's nothing really on it, so we're just going to power through it. The way that works is once you start to have get the paint to build up on there, eventually I'll be painting on paint. Right now I am painting on paint, but there's something else there. What's interesting is that resist should have happened when I airbrushed on it too, but it isn't. So I don't know why it's doing this. So you guys get to see all the weirdness today. The front of this is really dark, so I don't really have to worry about how those lines terminate, because they'll blend in. All right, so now that the first ones are dry, it may be that I have this over-reduced too, like the over-reduction might be playing a role in it, which would be lovely, because then when I go over it again with, you know, a little bit more paint, it should cover. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why it's doing that. I mean, as it's drying, it is covering, but just weird that it's pulling that resist the way it is. So usually when it's a fingerprint, you can see the ridges in the fingerprint, and this isn't like that. So I don't know. I don't really know what's on there, but it's still going to work. All right, that's good. That is okay. So you see, that's much better than what I would have got with the airbrush to start. I mean, I'll show you, you know, the next step, but that's much better than, you know, what I would have come out with the airbrush. Make sure that's focused. Good. All right. Jump back to this. Make sure I'm in there. Yeah. Okay. So the front of those are really dark. So grab the airbrush again. Actually, you know what? We're going to stop there because we've been doing this for half an hour. Yay! All right, so when we come back, we're going to finish that cylinder. We'll do that on the next episode and show you how it all comes together. All right, so for Steve Leahy and Tech Tuesday, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. Click that bell icon too. And join me again next week. So I will catch you all later. Thanks a lot.